This is video A13, and I'm going to start with number 7, which is negative 3 plus 5. So up in this corner right here, right, I have adding the rules for adding positive and negative numbers. So I look up here, and the first thing says adding with the same sign, and I look over here and I say, oh, so it doesn't fall under that category, right, because this one is a negative and this one is positive. So can't use that one. So I'm going to come down here and look at adding with different signs. And it says, to add two numbers with different signs, find the difference of their absolute values. The sum has the same sign as the addend with the greater absolute value. So I'm going to subtract their the difference of their absolute values. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's choose a different color. So I'm going to take the absolute value of 5 minus the absolute value of negative 3. So that gives me 5, and then I have minus, and the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. So I get an answer of 2. So I know it's 2, and the question now left to ask is this going to be positive or is this going to be negative? So I come over here and it says the sum has the same sign as the addend with the greater absolute value. Well, the greater absolute value is this one, and that number is positive. So I know my answer is a positive 2. So I can do it that way, guys, or I can do it, which is perfect, or I can do it as a number line. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to start at negative 3. And then I'm going to add positive 5. So when I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this distance here, right, the length of the green line is 5. And I end up at 2, which is the same answer I got here. So I know I'm correct. All right, so on the video quiz, I'm going to ask you the question from this: how do I decide if my answer is positive or negative? And the answer is it is always going to be the sign. So it's always going to be the sign of whichever of these two is who has the greater absolute value. So in this case, right, this gave me an absolute value of positive 5. This gave me an absolute value. The answer to this is positive 3. This one's greater, and it's positive. Therefore, I know my answer is positive. All right, that's the end of that one. Let's move on to another one. All right, so I drew true red hearts. That's your extra credit. In number 17, I'm going to do number 17, and it says to evaluate for A is equal to 5 and B is equal to negative 4. And 17 says the opposite of A plus the opposite of B. So let's start by just plugging them in. So here I go. So I have the opposite, and then for A I have 5. And then I have my plus sign doesn't change. And then I have the opposite of B, which is a negative 4. And I want to go ahead and simplify that. So that's going to give me a negative 5 plus, and then let's go ahead and take a look at what that negative 4 actually, the opposite of negative 4 is. So here I go. So if this is 0, and I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and finish our number line. So I'm going to go negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and then in the positive direction, let's go ahead and go, 1, 2, 3, now let's make that go a little bit farther, 4. So there we go. So we want the opposite of negative 4. So that tells us that it's actually going to be the opposite of that. It says, okay, find this little minus sign here is going to flip over and make that a positive. Minus a minus gives me the opposite of a negative 4 is a positive. I guess I need a pen, huh? Is a positive 4. All right, so now I have to decide, is my answer going to be positive or negative? So I'm going to subtract the absolute values of these two. And I know my answers. I look at these two right here. I see the bigger one is negative. Therefore, I know that my answer, when I add them, has to be negative as well. So let's put the negative up there. And now I just subtract, as this over here tells us, right? Since the signs are different, we're going to take the difference of their absolute values. So let's go ahead and do that. So that's going to give me the absolute value of negative 5 minus the absolute value of 4. Well, the absolute value of negative 5 is 5, and the absolute value of 4 is 4. So 5 minus 4 gives us 1, and we already decided, right, that our answer was negative because the bigger one, right, is the bigger absolute value is in fact negative. So now let's do it on the number line. So we're going to start at negative, let's do it in a different color. We're going to start here at negative 5, and then to that, right, to that negative 5, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add 4. So this is the equation that we're doing, right? So we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and sure enough, we get exactly the same answer. All right, so I think in this one, your extra credit will be, what is the opposite of negative 4 and why? And you're going to tell me the opposite of negative 4 is 4. And the answer for that to that is because if I have a negative 4 and I take the opposite sign of that, the opposite sign of a negative is a positive, and therefore that has to be a positive 4. That's the end of the video. All right, guys, quiz tomorrow. See you tomorrow.